Internet. It's RPG Grandma. It's been a interesting day. I just got back from the emergency room. My nephew broke his wrist. He did not fall correctly as he's been taught to do. So, safety tip. Really, tuck and roll. Tuck and roll. Land on your shoulders. Do not put your arms out. So, yeah, I'm all day at the ER. And other insane things happened in town, so ER was crazy with police and everything else. So, but we're back. He's going to be okay. You know, he's all splinted up now. Going to have to see, the pediatric orthopedic person in a week or so. So, all right. I wanted to talk about half elves, or I sometimes call them elfkin, and in your world setting, how they fit in. They actually come from mythology, folklore, and legends of not just, I don't think just European sources, but those are the ones I'm most familiar with. They actually there's other similar type beings in other people's mythologies too, and folklore and legends. And it's just a given. Elves or fairies and humans can make babies. It's been that way in the legends and folklore for a very long time, at least in Europe. So that is one reason they can be in your fantasy setting. The half elves are in literature of English-speaking countries, as well as other countries in Europe. And most people know about Tolkien. So yes, Tolkien had half elves, but they were rare. Gary wasn't big into Tolkien. He was more into your kind of pulp fantasy stuff, like Conan the Barbarian or Edgar Rice Burroughs, stuff like that. But yeah, he had half elves in the setting. Now, a lot of literature is written from the human side. A lot of folklore is from the human side, because we're humans telling the stories. All right. So you don't usually say to other humans, well, that guy over there is half human, because the next question will be from everybody else who's human is, well, what's the other half? So it's just easier to say half elf. That's why it's that way. No other reason. But I came up or read somewhere or picked up somewhere along the line the term elfkin, and I kind of like that term as well. So I will use those interchangeably. So I'm throwing that out there, that that is another term you might want to use for your biracial human elves, elf humans. All right. Now, in folklore, mythology, there's even in some family ancestries, there's half elves. So, which I know is going to really blow some people's minds. What do you mean? It's like, yeah, well, some people actually have folklore attached to their family names. So that is a thing. Some families have that. It was a given. At one time, it was a given. Like, yeah, that could happen in real life. So there's no reason why it couldn't happen in a fantasy setting. Nobody was sitting around going, I think they're two different species and cannot mate. That never crossed anybody's mind. So Tolkien comes along with some other people before him, and he writes, his epic novels. And he has half elves. They're not all running around. There's not epic numbers of them or anything like that. And the reason is is magic is required to make half elves in that universe. Divine magic, magic of the gods. Okay? And that's an interesting twist that you could certainly apply to your fantasy setting. That magic has to be a component to create elfkin, to create, a child between two people who are in love, one happening to be elf and one happening to be human. Now, on the folklore end, that I was talking about, usually the elf is a wife, but not always. There are elf husbands. So sometimes it's reversed. It's the second one, with a husband as elf, is rare. But usually it's an elven maiden, a fairy maiden. Now, so that's why they were rare. Now, and Gary, he didn't either realize that and didn't put it in there, or he just went with the more folklore end of it. Yeah, sure, they can make babies. But they've always been there. So, but Gary had a human-centric world. So we're back to this human-centric thinking, which shouldn't be a surprise because we're human. All right, guys? And he wanted to maintain humans as the dominant species, if you will, dominant peoples in his sandbox. I just know from Gary's Gygax's mechanics in D&D, that was the deal with a lot of things in D&D. So the mechanics were used to try to create some sort of level playing field, sometimes in the long run, sometimes in the short run, just depended on the thing, which a lot of people don't understand. They don't really get old D&D mechanics. They haven't really sat down and pondered what people were doing. They just jump to judgments that are often in error. Now, so that's two sources for our half elves in a setting. Moving forward, one of the reasons I like Elfkin is I eventually got around to reading. I had this already, but actually reading the book this is based on, books plural, by Jack Vance, Planet Adventures. It's a series of books, all right, and stories. And this guy crashes on this planet. They were investigating a signal. The signal had been sent like hundreds of years ago by a culture of humans that got punished severely for sending the signal into space. They basically were phoning home. They had heard through their folklore that they did not originate on this planet. They were not native to that planet. That they had, in fact, been taken to the planet. And on this planet are multiple alien races. And they all have like their own cities and stuff. And they are the ones who, did a little stop by on Earth and, abducted some people in the way back times and brought them to this other planet for labor. So there's no nice way of saying it, slave labor. Now, the humans on this planet don't necessarily look like Earth humans. They have been modified to look like the various alien races that they are administrated by now. And some of them don't even consider themselves human. And they're definitely into purity. They're, of course, people who, interracially mate and fall in love and all that. But it's frowned upon. It has consequences. They tend to be the people who are living out in the wastelands, people who've escaped. These alien races are not nice. They are technologically advanced, but they are not nice. They hunt people, they kill people for fun, they capture people and make them slaves again, all that good stuff, which isn't good. It's just from their perspective, it's good. Humans' perspective, not so much. Unless, of course, you think you're one of these special humans who is really related to your alien keepers who have brainwashed you to believe that. And I am serious. That is some of the races, human races, think that way. So that got me thinking about Half Elves when I read this, actually read the books. That this resource that I got for my space games made me think about. Because the humans are so different. They are purple. They are green. They are blue. They have dome heads, some of them. Some of them, their noses are just like slits. They are very, very different. There are sundry of cultures, just so many different cultures that are unique. And it's a big no-no to talk about Earth. It's a big no-no on that planet to be like, yeah, we came from another planet. They will kill you for that. So obviously, our space adventurers who end up on this planet are in trouble. They have humans that you can barely even tell what gender they are because the race that has those ones gives them chemicals to keep them from properly developing as males or females. And because it's an insect type kind of like society, and they only keep so many for breeding, and everybody else they want not to be fully matured in that area. And of course they want them to look more like them too as well. And their behaviors, everything is massively influenced by these different alien societies. So that got me thinking about Half Elves. You could, in a setting, and again, this is all about world background, world mysteries, history's mysteries, have Half Elves who don't know they're human. They're fully human, but they have been modified to look like elves. And they are go-betweens for the elf nations and the humans. And they think they're a special thing in the elven community. You could have that. And it doesn't have to be nefarious like it is in, Planet of Adventure. Could be, but it doesn't have to be. That is one thought. Another background setting is Half Elves are the elves. All right? They are the elves, Land elves have gone extinct for the most part, and so the only remnants of the elven kind are the Half Elves. Good. Something's happened. Maybe they're sea elves, but no one has seen any kind of land elf, including the drow, for the longest time. So those are my thoughts kind of on elves, in particular half elves. Now, your half elf, when it's over in an elven tribe, chilling, more than likely, if the elves are talking about that half elf, they're going to be saying half human. Just it's perspective. That's what I'm getting at the beginning. It's perspective in the storytelling. Now, elfkin to me is a nice encapsulation of what a half elf is. But what elfkin is as well, That's open to what kind of population you want. You want lots of half elves, lots of elfkin. How closely genetically are they? Are they a split off of a common ancestor? And that's why everybody can, doesn't even matter. Do you even care? Like when we look at myths, legends, and folklore, real myth, legends, and folklore, nobody cared about that. Or is it like a mutation because of the effects of magic? Is it an actual mutation that occurred that some human children are born looking like elves? Is it a situation where they are two different species? They are normally genetically not compatible, and that's why you got to bring the magic in, or the high science in the case of, like, let's talk about Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock's a space elf, right? A logical space elf, but a space elf. And he's got some woo-woo, right? Now, there had to be genetic engineering a little bit involved there because you've got incompatible biologies involved. They never really explain it on the TV show. Okay, but we know that had to happen. I mean, copper blood, red blood, just right there. Organs in different spots. I mean, there had to be some genetic engineering involved to get a healthy child. It had to be. So do you have that sort of technology in your setting? So why do people like elfkin? Why do they like half elves? Well, they're great role-playing characters. They're people that have two different cultures, two different groups of people who are sometimes at odds with each other. Arduin, elves and humans fought a bloody war. Odds with each other. The humans were not the good guys, okay? In that war, the humans were the aggressors. So that gives you role-playing possibilities. Even if you decide half-elves are really humans, but with pointy ears, and some capabilities that are more like the elves, then the question becomes, why and how did that happen? And does anybody know the secret? And then when the players discover that secret, that can be an interesting thing in your background. It saddens me they've been dropped from the player's handbook. It concerns me on another level as well. And yes, I do know you can still play them. I read the rules, the suggested rules of how to play biracial characters, how to go about figuring that out. There's always been changes to D&D, races, classes, things dropped. It doesn't mean you can't retain them. Absolutely. But the thing that's most concerning was the statements around them, because the implication is if you continue to play them, that somehow you're a bad person. It's your table. Do what you want. Try not, if you're going to go in that direction that, you don't want half elves, you don't want elfkin, you see no value to them in the game, or you think they're problematic, try not to be judgmental of the people who are going to keep them. And like me, who just put out this video here, that we're keeping them for other reasons. We're keeping them because they're great storytelling potential. We are keeping them because the people I play with who are mixed race like to play them. And I honestly thought I would never, ever make a video like this at the end. Anyway, I've got to go. It's been a long night. Like, subscribe, comment. Please don't cancel me for trying to handle a difficult conversation. Do what's best for you and your table, you and your players, 100%. Okay? And everybody have a great time. And think about using the term elfkin. It sounds way cooler than half elf. Anyway, everybody, good night. Bye.